Welcome to the Kitchen Sink University, where we share our understanding with you, the viewers, hopefully to teach you something new and empower all of us to expand our abilities and strive to be more capable. We hope that you'll take what we show you, improve it, and share it with others. I'm Eric Rosenblatt, and today I will dispense my personal financial advice and talk a little bit about budgeting. Learning to deal with money is a very important skill if you want to stay ahead of the financial game and remain independent. These are just my own ideas, things that work for me. Maybe you'll have a different technique, and if so, I'd love to hear it, and we can add it to everyone's toolbox. So here's what I've learned. Number one, always live within your means. Treat your household finances and budget as if you were running a business, because in a way, you are. Number two, keep track of all expenditures and save your receipts or make a record of transactions. And do your own independent accounting. Don't rely on bank statements or the data on their website. Do it yourself. Number three, round up all purchases and round down deposits. Periodically compare the ledger that you're keeping with your bank statements, and you'll find you're quickly saving up a nice buffer. You should always have a buffer in case you miscalculate. Number four, when you receive some kind of income, be it a paycheck or whatever, immediately take a small portion and put it aside. Whether it's $1 or 1,000, this is vitally important. And try to resist the urge to spend it. The rule of thumb is to take out 10%, but not everybody can do that. Just put aside something. Your minimum goal should be to have a few months' salary saved as a backup. This will serve as your emergency fund. For some, it could take a while, but it's important to at least aim for that number as a starting point. Number five, diversify your savings. Maybe keep some in the bank, keep some as cash, some in stocks, or purchase precious metals or cryptocurrency. Whatever it is, spread out your savings. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Number six, anticipate recurring bills well in advance and deduct them from your expected income. Rent, utilities, car payment, whatever. That way you don't get blindsided by a forgotten expense. You already know those bills are coming, so pretend as if that money is already spent. This is actually pretty much what budgeting is, and I'll go into that in a bit. So that leads us to number seven. Continually analyze what you're spending money on and make determinations as to how to decrease those expenditures. You'd be surprised how fast those nickel and dime costs can add up. And while you're cutting costs, look for ways to increase your income. Whether it's a permanent increase or a one-off thing like someone paying you to mow their lawn or selling something on Craigslist, everything counts. Number eight, make future plans and set goals. This pretty much speaks for itself, but it's really important to do. Just make sure you follow through with your goals. And number nine, set aside a little bit of fun money. It's helpful to always have some sort of treat so you feel like your efforts are bearing fruit. Maybe your fun money will go toward a nice dinner, perhaps a trip around the world, or it could be that sports car you've always wanted. Whatever your means, reward yourself from time to time. Number 10, be cautious of using credit. Only acquire debt if you know you can pay it off with the resources you currently have at your disposal, and only acquire it with purpose. Credit can be a useful tool, but it can also be a dangerous trap. There's a reason there's no income tax on the money you receive from a loan. It's not income, it's an expense. So that's basically it. No, wait, there's actually one more. Number 11. And actually, this is probably the most important one. Be content with what you have. Yes, there will always be people out there who have more material wealth than you do. Life isn't a competition, though, and there's no prize for dying with the most possessions. Our existence is finite, so simply enjoy the ride with the resources you currently have. It doesn't do you any good to compare yourself to others. In fact, it can often lead to poor financial decisions. We're all unique individuals with different circumstances. Some have more, some have less. But you'll find that between people, it balances out. A relative deficit in one area is counterbalanced by a surplus in another. Whatever you do, don't allow your sense of self-worth to be derived solely on the basis of wealth. Otherwise, that's all you'll be worth. Just some numbers. We're so much more than that. That's just my 2 cents on the matter. So, okay, now that I've relayed my advice, let's talk a little bit about budgeting, that thing I mentioned earlier. Budgeting is essentially just a financial plan. The easy way to budget is with software, and there's tons of programs out there you could use. Some people use a spreadsheet. Personally, I just use a pen and paper. Try to keep it simple or difficult, I guess, in that regard. If you have predictable income and expenses, it's pretty straightforward. The unpredictable things can be extrapolated by looking at historical data from your receipts. For instance, you might not know what your food expense for the year will be, but you might know your housing expense. If you track what you spend on food all year long, you can estimate what next year's cost will be. So, something you have to do over time. Anyway, I'll just throw out an example of a budget. We'll use easy fake numbers for the sake of simplicity. Just take a piece of paper, draw out a grid of sorts, make enough boxes for each month of the year, plus a few for headings and totals and stuff like that. Then start filling in the blanks with labels and numbers. Here we're assuming I have a job that pays $2,000 a month, as well as a seasonal mowing side gig. Mowing is fun. So start filling in the various expenses you'll expect to have as well. Some people say you should account for where every dollar will be spent. And I don't think you have to get that detailed, but try to cover the significant stuff at least. And speaking of seasonal things, there could be some things you'll want to account for, like your kid's birthday or Christmas or things like that. And you can make a row for that as well. So keep plugging in the numbers. Remember, you're building a plan. Planning ahead is important because it influences your decisions. You can see here that according to my estimation, at the end of the year, I should have quite a nice amount saved. $3,500 actually, with over $1,000 of fund money available. And I only made $27,000 that year. Though, of course, rent and food was pretty cheap. So yeah, you'll have to adjust to your particular situation. So to kind of explain what's going on here, I added up all of our income, then added up all of our expenses below. And then what you want to do is subtract your expenses from your income, and that gives you your profit. Remember, revenue minus expenses equals profit. So then you take a cut of your profit and distribute it across your savings. What's left after that can be spent how you see fit, likely on the daily expenses we all have. Just leave yourself a little bit of breathing room. So then every month you're going to want to list all of the expenses you're going to have for a particular period, like if you have pay periods or something. And then you just basically write down all of your expenses for that month. And you know, when you get a paycheck, you add that in. And usually when I get a paycheck, I immediately pay all the bills I can, or at least deduct them if they're paid automatically. And then, you know, add everything up and just basically just keep track of where you're spending money on and that kind of thing, because it'll probably help you in the future as well for planning for next year's budget. Obviously, this is just made up. A real world situation would have a lot more detail in it. You could do it on paper, old school, like I do, or use software. Okay, I'd recommend software. It's a lot easier, and you can make it as simple or as complex as you want. But whatever you do, at the very least, create some kind of a plan and aim to reduce expenses and get rid of debt and build some form of savings. This is obviously vastly oversimplified, but I think it serves as a decent example of where to start. So, yeah, okay, that's it for now. Remember, everybody, try, don't be afraid to fail, learn, and teach. Class